Listen closely, my friends. There is a truth most people learn too late. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend, and not everyone who stands beside you wants to see you rise. Some people stay close because they benefit from your weakness. Some listen to your plans only so they can understand where to attack, and some will call themselves your friends right up until the moment your success makes them uncomfortable. The Stoics understood this long before social media, popularity, and modern relationships turned trust into a currency. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself to be careful about the people he allowed into his mind because the quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of the people you give access to. Imagine your mind as a fortress. You would never open its gates to every stranger walking toward it. Yet most people give strangers unlimited access to their emotions, secrets, dreams, and weaknesses simply because those strangers know how to make them feel understood. Then when betrayal comes, they wonder why they never saw it coming. But this video is not about becoming cold. It is not about hating people, isolating yourself, or believing that everyone is secretly against you. It is about becoming wise enough to recognize the difference between a true friend, a convenient friend, and someone who only stays close while you remain useful. Stoicism does not teach you to fear people. It teaches you to stop being controlled by your attachment to them. Think about how many times you ignored a red flag because you wanted someone to be genuine. How many times did you forgive the same behavior? Explain away disrespect or reveal something deeply personal because you desperately wanted to believe you had finally found someone you could trust. Sometimes the hardest lesson is realizing that your desire for connection can make you blind to someone's character. The ancient Stoics had a different approach. They watched actions instead of promises. They valued character over charm, consistency over words, and self-control over emotional attachment. Seneca wrote extensively about friendship, and warned that we should choose our friends carefully because true friendship requires trust, virtue, and mutual respect, not simply familiarity. So, in this video, we're going deeper than the simple idea of trust nobody. We are going to uncover 7 Stoic lessons that will teach you how to recognize hidden intentions, protect your peace, stop oversharing, detach from people who constantly disappoint you, and understand why some people only respect you after you stop needing their approval. Because once you learn to see people clearly, betrayal stops being a surprise. And perhaps the most powerful lesson is this. You don't need to become suspicious of everyone. You need to become impossible to manipulate. You can remain kind without being naive. You can love people without becoming dependent on them. You can forgive without giving someone unlimited access to hurt you again. And you can walk away without hatred when someone's presence repeatedly destroys your peace. Because the strongest person in the room is not the one who trusts nobody. It is the one who can trust wisely, love deeply, observe silently, and walk away without losing himself. And by the end of these 7 lessons, you may never look at friendship, loyalty, or trust the same way again. Lesson 1: Stop giving everyone access to you. One of the most dangerous mistakes you can make in life is believing that everyone who smiles at you is standing beside you. Not everyone who listens to you cares about you. Not everyone who asks about your life wants to see you succeed. And not everyone who calls themselves your friend has earned the right to know your plans, your weaknesses, your fears, or the battles you are fighting in silence. The Stoics understood something that most people learn only after being betrayed. Trust should be earned, not automatically given. Seneca warned about the danger of placing your inner life in the hands of people who have not proven themselves worthy of it. Because once you give someone access to your mind, your emotions, and your vulnerabilities, you give them something far more valuable than information. You give them influence over you. Think of your mind as a fortress. A fortress does not hate everyone outside its walls. It simply understands that not everyone deserves entry. The gates are not permanently closed, but they are guarded. You can be kind without being accessible. You can respect people without trusting them completely. You can forgive someone without giving them another opportunity to destroy your peace. Look at how people behave when they have nothing to gain from you. Watch what happens when you say no. Watch how they react when you stop giving them attention, money, favors, or emotional support. Watch whether they celebrate your progress or secretly compete with it. Character reveals itself when there is no reward for pretending. Imagine you tell someone about a goal you are deeply committed to. They smile, encourage you, and tell you they believe in you. But weeks later, you notice that every time you make progress, they make a subtle joke about it. Every achievement becomes something they minimize. Every failure becomes something they remember. That is when you realize sometimes the person standing closest to you is not necessarily standing with you. This is why Stoicism teaches you to observe before you attach. Do not judge people by their words. Study their patterns. Words are cheap. Consistency is expensive. Anyone can say, "I'm here for you." Very few people prove it when your success becomes inconvenient for them. And here is the deeper lesson. You do not need to become cold. You need to become discerning. There is a difference between having no heart and having boundaries. The weak person trusts everyone because they fear being alone. The stronger person accepts that solitude is better than surrounding themselves with people who slowly poison their confidence, discipline, and peace. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to remain calm around difficult people rather than allowing their behavior to control his character. That is the real power. Someone can lie to you without turning you into a liar. Someone can betray you without turning you bitter. Someone can disrespect you without convincing you to abandon your own standards. So stop asking, "Does this person like me?" Start asking, "What does this person consistently reveal about their character?" Because friendship is not proven by how loudly someone claims to care. It is proven in silence, in your absence, during your failure. When you succeed, and when there is absolutely nothing they can gain from standing beside you, protect your peace. Guard your weaknesses. Move slowly with trust. You don't have to assume everyone is your enemy. You simply need to stop assuming everyone is your friend. Lesson 2. Watch what they do when you no longer serve them. One of the clearest ways to discover someone's true character is to stop being useful to them. Stop solving every problem. Stop answering every call immediately. Stop offering favors before they ask. Stop carrying their burdens while they never notice yours. Then watch carefully, because when the benefits disappear, the performance often disappears with them. The person who only loved your usefulness will slowly lose interest in your presence. This is where many people become confused. They think friendship is measured by how long someone has known them, how many memories they share, or how often they talk. But time alone does not prove loyalty. Familiarity is not character. History is not devotion. Someone can know you for 10 years and still only value what you provide. The Stoics understood that true friendship is connected to virtue and character, not convenience. Imagine a tree standing in summer. Everyone enjoys its shade. People sit beneath it, rest against it, and praise how useful it is. But when winter arrives and the leaves disappear, the crowd leaves with them. The tree did not suddenly become worthless. The season simply revealed who loved the tree and who only loved its shade. People can be the same. Sometimes you don't lose a friend when you stop giving. You simply discover what the relationship was built on. Think about someone who constantly comes to you when they need advice, money, attention, connections, or emotional support. You listen for hours. You show up when they are struggling. But the moment you need them, suddenly they are busy. Suddenly your problems are too heavy. Suddenly their promises become excuses. If this happens once, perhaps life got in the way. But if it becomes a pattern, Stoic wisdom tells you to stop arguing with the evidence. Patterns are evidence. You don't need to interrogate someone to discover who they are. Watch what they repeatedly do. Watch who they become when they don't need anything from you. Watch whether they respect your boundaries when you stop saying yes. Watch whether they still celebrate your existence when you have nothing to offer them. The truth is usually hiding inside repetition. Epictetus taught that we should focus on what is within our control rather than becoming consumed by what others choose to do. You cannot force someone to be loyal. You cannot negotiate someone into having integrity. You cannot love someone so intensely that they suddenly develop character. And the moment you understand this, you stop wasting your energy trying to convince people to value you. There is also a darker truth. Some people become uncomfortable when you become less available. Not because they miss you, but because they miss the access they had to you. They miss the attention. They missed the favors. They miss knowing that whenever they reached out, you would abandon your own priorities to rescue them. When you establish boundaries, they may call you selfish, distant, arrogant, or changed. Sometimes you've changed simply means you no longer behave the way I benefited from. Do not rush to defend yourself. Do not write a paragraph explaining your boundaries. Do not beg them to understand. Let your behavior speak. A person who genuinely values you will adjust to healthy boundaries. A person who only valued your usefulness will fight against them. Your boundary becomes a mirror and people reveal themselves by how they react to what they see. The Stoic does not chase every person who walks away. He observes. He learns. He accepts because losing access to someone who only valued your usefulness is not always a loss. Sometimes it is freedom disguised as rejection. And when you stop measuring your worth by how useful you are to other people, something inside you becomes impossible to control. So remember this. Don't ask people to prove that they love you. Give them space to reveal whether they do. Stop forcing relationships to survive. Stop carrying connections that only move when you carry them. Let time, distance, boundaries, and circumstances expose what words tried to hide. Because when you stop being useful and someone still chooses your company, still respects your boundaries, still celebrates your victories, and still stands beside you when there is nothing to gain, that is when you begin to understand what real friendship looks like. Lesson 3: Watch how they react to your boundaries. You can learn more about a person's character by telling them no than by telling them yes 100 times. When you always agree, almost everyone appears kind. When you become available to everyone, almost everyone appears to respect you. But the moment you establish a boundary, the illusion begins to disappear. Because a person who genuinely respects you may dislike your decision, but they will still respect your right to make it. This is where many relationships reveal their hidden structure. You say, "I can't do that." Suddenly, their tone changes. You stop answering immediately and they accuse you of becoming distant. You refuse to explain yourself and they demand an explanation. You choose your priorities and they call you selfish. Sometimes the person isn't angry because your boundary is wrong. They're angry because your boundary has removed their access to you. The Stoics understood that your life cannot belong to everyone around you. Epictetus repeatedly emphasized the importance of distinguishing between what belongs to you and what belongs to others. Your choices, your judgments, your actions, these are yours. Other people's expectations are not. The moment you begin living according to everyone's demands, you slowly surrender the one thing Stoicism tells you to protect above almost everything else: your ability to govern yourself. Imagine a house with no doors. Anyone can walk inside whenever they want. They can rearrange the furniture, take what they want, make noise while you're sleeping, and leave whenever they're finished. Would you call that hospitality? No. You would call it a house without protection. Your mind can become the same way when you never establish boundaries. Kindness without boundaries eventually becomes self-abandonment. And understand this carefully. Having boundaries does not mean becoming cruel. You don't have to insult people. You don't have to threaten them. You don't have to announce that you're cutting everyone off. Sometimes the strongest boundary is simply a quiet change in behavior. You stop explaining. You stop chasing. You stop volunteering for things that destroy your peace. You stop allowing guilt to make decisions for you. Marcus Aurelius dealt with difficult people constantly. Yet he didn't allow their behavior to dictate his own character. That is the Stoic challenge. Someone else's lack of self-control should not become your excuse to lose yours. If someone becomes angry because you said no, remain calm. If someone tries to provoke guilt, remain clear. If someone attempts to punish you for having boundaries, don't retaliate just to prove that you cannot be controlled. Because there is a dangerous habit hidden inside people pleasing. You start believing that being loved requires being endlessly available. You become afraid that if you stop giving, people will leave. So you keep saying yes when you mean no. You keep answering when you need rest. You keep forgiving behavior that should have been corrected. Eventually, you don't even know whether people love you or simply love the version of you that never disappoints them. But here's the paradox. The right people don't need you to destroy yourself to keep them. They may disagree with your boundaries. They may miss the old version of you, but they won't demand that you betray yourself just to make them comfortable. Their respect survives your independence. So don't use boundaries as a weapon. Use them as a filter. Let them reveal who can respect your autonomy and who only respected your availability. You don't need to accuse anyone. You don't need to expose anyone. Just stop making exceptions for behavior that repeatedly violates your peace. And when someone walks away because you finally learned to say no, don't immediately assume you lost a friend. Sometimes you lost an expectation. Sometimes you lost a role you were forced to play. Sometimes you lost someone who loved what you did for them more than who you were. The Stoic doesn't build walls around his heart. He builds gates and he decides who earns the key. Lesson 4. Watch how they react to your success. Failure can reveal who feels sorry for you. Success reveals who genuinely wants you to rise. When you are struggling, some people will happily stand beside you because your weakness makes them feel safe. But when you become disciplined, confident, successful, or simply happier than before, the relationship can suddenly change. Their congratulations become quieter. Their jokes become sharper. Their support begins to carry a strange bitterness. And you start noticing something you were too hopeful to see before. Some people don't want you to fail. They just don't want you to rise higher than them. This is one of the hardest truths to accept because jealousy rarely announces itself honestly. Nobody walks into your life and says, "I am threatened by your growth." Instead, it hides behind sarcasm, subtle criticism, backhanded compliments, constant comparison, or sudden indifference. You tell them about an achievement and instead of celebrating it, they immediately tell you why it isn't that impressive. You share a goal and they remind you of every reason you might fail. You improve yourself and somehow they become uncomfortable with the new version of you. Imagine two people climbing the same mountain. At the beginning, both are struggling, both are exhausted, and both understand the pain. They encourage each other because they are at the same height, but one begins climbing faster. Suddenly, the other stops looking at the summit and starts looking sideways. The mountain never became the problem. Comparison did. And this is why your growth can expose emotions in people that your struggle never revealed. The Stoics understood that another person's position does not diminish yours. Marcus Aurelius did not need to become smaller so someone else could feel larger. He focused on his own character, his own duties, and his own conduct. That is the Stoic response to comparison. Don't spend your life looking sideways at another person's progress. Your task is not to prove that you are better than them. Your task is to become better than the person you were yesterday. But there is an important distinction. Not every criticism is jealousy. Not every disagreement is betrayal. A genuine friend may challenge you because they care about your character more than your ego. They may tell you something you don't want to hear because they want to prevent you from making a mistake. The difference is intention and pattern. A true friend can correct you without needing to diminish you. A jealous person often needs your success to become smaller so they can feel bigger. Watch what happens when you stop needing their approval. Watch what happens when you improve your appearance, your finances, your discipline, your confidence, or your mindset. Watch whether they become inspired by your progress or irritated by it. And especially watch what happens when your success gives you choices you didn't have before. Some people are comfortable when you need them. They become uncomfortable when you no longer do. There is a powerful Stoic lesson hidden here. Never make yourself smaller to preserve someone else's comfort. If your growth is honest, disciplined, and ethical, you do not owe anyone an apology for becoming stronger. You don't need to announce your progress. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to fight with people who misunderstand it. Simply keep walking. Because sometimes the person who disappears when you succeed was never attached to your potential. They were attached to the version of you they could compare themselves against. And when you changed, the relationship became uncomfortable because the old balance disappeared. So don't become paranoid. Don't start seeing enemies everywhere. Observe without becoming bitter. Celebrate your progress quietly. Share less with people who repeatedly turn your victories into competitions, and remember that genuine friendship does not require you to remain weak so someone else can remain comfortable. The Stoic does not ask, why can't they be happy for me?